happy to see you. How you doing?
I'm good, Maureen. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. So you and I had a chat this morning, a chat before our chat, because we had so much unloading to do, right?
Yes,
As we always do when we talk.
of course, of course.
So how long have we known each other? Years?
You know what I was just thinking after we chatted for our chat? It was like I started that job in 2008 and wasn't H1N1 2009?
Yeah.
So I must have known you for about a year. Like it seems like we should be talking right now because it seems like I kind of met you during that time and we had some collegial experiences. But then after that, we were friends rather than colleagues. Like I didn't have any Alberta Health staff at the time. So it was more like colleagues. And I was like, oh my God, that was around a pandemic time.
It was. Yeah. So we met through work in Calgary.
Yeah.
I think it's so funny how our lives keep
Yeah.
going like this,
Yeah.
right? So we met through our work in Calgary. I think I, as an Alberta Health Services manager, was loaning staff to your
Yep.
nonprofit that you
Yep.
were director of. And then I went back to school and did a master's in leadership at Royal Roads. A year later, you went back to school and did the same program. So I was in second year, you were in first year, and
Yeah.
they randomly matched us up as first and second year buddies, which was
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you moved to Cambridge, where I used to live, and work in Guelph, where I used to work.
Yes.
Hilarious.
Isn't that funny? And about to move to Guelph, which is it's a fascinating time. Yeah,
It
it's a
is.
fascinating time. So that is a long time. And we just had these, I think our stars have aligned wherever we've been.
Yeah.
And we can go for months and months and then hook up to where we left off.
Yes.
and have our check-in and go, okay, am I crazy? Are you crazy? Are we all crazy? Well, okay, no, that's good. Validation.
Yeah,
Check-in,
we both know that we're both crazy.
Yeah.
So that's where we start. Yeah. And we both have a fascination with all things leadership and growth and development, right?
Yeah,
so that's where we
yeah.
really connect for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a crazy time. One of the questions I have, you didn't think that the guest would ask you questions.
Go for it. Go for it. Because you had a podcast.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You know more about this than I do. So go ahead.
And I interviewed you on my podcast.
You interviewed me. That's right. I was a guest on yours.
We'll have to find for your show notes. We'll have to find which episode that. Well, if I was more with it, I would have actually found that out. But no, one of the things that I keep asking myself is, what is my learning today? Like, what am I learning? And I know there's going to be a huge reflection after, but yes, for those of you who don't know, I am in healthcare right now and I'm organizational development. So I'm not frontline, but I have, I can see what is happening in healthcare. So I'm just kind of like, what am I learning about myself? What am I learning about others? And so I'm like, I bet you have got a huge long list of answers. So we don't have to answer it now, but sometime on this call, like I just get blown away about what I'm learning about, or what pops up and go, oh, yeah, that was really sucky, Joanne. Yeah, what could you do differently next time?
Right. Well, you, like me, like to take this observer role of yourself in situations, and you do notice. And I think you thrive on it. You thrive on being on a learning curve and noticing things about yourself and reflecting. And you have this curiosity about yourself, and that's interesting information. What's coming up for you now? And that's where, you do that a lot. And so do I, and I love doing that. So like you're right. So when you're like that daily, you're like, oh, what was that?
Yeah.
Ooh, what was that?
Yeah. And I love it how your personality, like I'm just fully embracing I'm fully embracing my preferences right now. You know, I have a preference for structure. I have a preference for process. I have a preference for traditional and hierarchy too, right? And I can push up against it when I want to, and when I don't agree with it. I'm always going to ask questions if it doesn't logically make sense to me. But we know that's all about what logically makes sense to you versus me versus what makes sense to you. But I'm also embracing it because I know I have a lot of skills to offer in this time, especially to my colleagues who are a bit more on the intuitive and don't like to be locked down and want to go here, there, and everywhere. And this challenging time is more for, okay, like, what is the here and now? What can we focus on? We need to have an eye on the ball, but we also need to be able to be nimble and make decisions and get some good structures and processes in place. And I think that's been the biggest learning for me in a hospital right now, when it's like structure and process is our friend. However, we also have to be so nimble about adapting them, because this is, and I would ask you, I mean, this is my first rodeo of a pandemic in a healthcare organization, and people are telling me it's not like any other. So I think I heard the chief medical officer of Ontario, of Canada, say, basically, you learn how to run a pandemic by chucking everything else that you learned about the previous one out and coming into it with a new lens. So that's what I find fascinating. Like, how am I okay to shift and be nimble, or do I get stuck in, well, this is how it should be, and this is how we always, like, it's very fascinating.
Well, and you and I have lots of opinions about about leadership and what should and shouldn't be done, and what's good and what's not, and what's bad, and blah blah blah, and we see things.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, how are those things, well, I noticed this in myself, how are those things either serving you or not at this time? How are those opinions,
yes,
stories, judgments, the lens that you're looking through, how are they keeping you stuck? Or are you able to set them aside and, like you say, practice? You talked this morning about practicing empathy, right? So when you're seeing something that is out of line with, the should that we all have, right? Shouldn't be doing that. That shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't be, how are you able to step out of that and say, okay, something must be going on for that person. I'm going to step into that. I can't know their whole story. But I can tap into whatever emotion is behind whatever they're expressing, and have some empathy and some compassion for them. And then practicing that with yourself as well.
Yeah. I am a huge advocate of Brené Brown, as as you know, and
yes.
What keep, and I don't think people understand, Maureen. Like, they think this is magic. Because you teach it, you get it, or because you preach it, you get it. And like, I used to say to people in any training, like, this shit's going on in my head like, I'm reminding myself, there's no magic, like, oh, now I know it, it's okay. There is now I know it, I can kind of be a little bit more self-aware, but I'm constantly saying to myself, it's easy to be outside the arena, Joanne, because I'm outside the arena of a lot of the chaos and the challenges and the decisions that people are having to make. And so it's easy for me to be outside. And so I have a few trusted colleagues that we get together with, and I'm like, okay, I'm in the arena here. I've got my judgment pants on. We like to say that too. And sometimes it's just, you know what? I've got my judgment pants on and I need to have them on because I have to vent and download.
Yeah.
And then after that, I then say, however, I know that people are doing the best they can. I hope they are doing the best they can. And I know there's a time for feedback, and when there's not a time for feedback. And I think the first 2 or 3 weeks of a pandemic is probably not the time.
Hey, I've got some feedback for you.
Yeah.
You imagine?
And I know some of the leaders will ask me, and colleagues are asking me too, and I'm asking them. And I think I'm doing a lot of, because I'm working now with people who I don't normally work with too, right? And so I do a lot of, this is who I am, this is how I like to function, this is how I like to operate, very open to any feedback, because it's like taking all our OD leadership stuff and doing it in a compressed way, right? The forming, storming, and norming has to happen like in a day.
Yeah.
Right. Because you got to get stuff done. But you also have to get it. And we have a little motto in the little team that I'm working. We know we're working under a sense of urgency and emergency, but we are always going to try and do it with thought and intention. So even if it's just a quick half an hour step back, okay, is there anything we're missing, and then step in. So
well, I think that's brilliant, because the alternative to that, because there are no processes, right? So an emergency situation is, we all run on process.
Yes.
right? I was an emergency nurse, right? We had process,
Right.
process, process, and process guides your decision. However, there is no process for this, like you said earlier. And the alternative to stepping back and saying, okay, so what's happening? What do we need to do? Being, using your cerebral cortex, the alternative to that is pure emotion.
Yep.
And that's where the toilet paper hoarding comes in. That's where
Yes.
the fist fights at the grocery store happen. Like, we don't, operating there is not a good place to be.
Yeah.
So I love that you say, we're doing all this, it's an emergency, we need to act, but we do need to step back,
Yeah. Yeah.
because otherwise you're
Yeah.
just making fear-based emotional decisions that are probably not the best.
Yeah. Yeah. And holding myself, because I want to help like many people,
Mm.
right? And so I have a tendency to jump in. Yeah, yeah, I'll take that, I'll run with it. Da, 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 da. So just trying to go, I'll take it, I'm going to find out some information, and then I'll circle back to you. So I go away, find out some information, circle back. Here's what I found. Because I mean, I can only imagine what it's like. The ministry, the federal, the provincial, the um, media, like everyone and anyone has got an opinion, and something you have to do because it's mandated, some things you don't. Like, so how do you feel? Like, I, I can't imagine, even though I can see what's happening, I just cannot even put myself in their shoes, because I've had days where I felt like it's come at me, and I'm like so far removed from the actual front line and the actual life and death decisions around PPE and all that kind of stuff. I'm kind of more behind the scenes support. So when I have those days, I'm like, shoot, okay, just a reminder, people are doing the best they can. And, there is a time for offering, and I'm continually offering support. Just, yeah, trying to have empathy. However, there are times where I feel strongly, and I know you would too. And I would just say things like, I don't agree this is the correct course of action. However, if this is what you decide that needs to be happen, then I will do it. At the end of the day, I work for an organization who tells me what to do. And I did that at the NHS when I was at the NHS in England as well, in health promotion. I distinctly remember writing as a young 30-something-year-old, writing a letter to the CEO saying, I do not, and it wasn't during pandemic, it wasn't during crisis.
Yeah.
I fundamentally did not agree with the course of action related to a health promotion for young people. And my public health VP was in support of, but couldn't advocate for what we thought. So I just felt I needed to have it in writing. Cover my ass. I guess it's a challenge, but I said I do not agree with it. And these are the reasons. This is the research. However, at the end of the day, I also work for an organization that is a bureaucracy and will tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
So
it's interesting to kind of straddle all of these places, but really trying hard, always in my head, because I can have the biggest judgment pants on any day in the world, in my life, and just trying to go, okay, I don't like it, I don't agree, and then I trust my gut. We talk about head, heart, and gut, right? And I trust, if it's really something that's really getting to me, Maureen, that's when I'll go, I really don't feel like this is the best decision. However, this is, and here's why. I'll always go, why? But also I understand that I'm not privy to all the information.
I don't get to know
either.
everything. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so I have to trust that too. And I've also said that at teams, like, we have to trust that we don't know all the information. So it's fascinating, because everyone's got an opinion out there, right? Like, everyone's got
especially
an opinion
right now. And what I find myself, I think we talked about this morning, but I'll go outside and I'll be doing something, like I'll be pulling away from the curb in my car to go run an errand, something that is essential. I need cream for my coffee. I don't know what it is. And I make assumptions. So when people look at me, or, don't look at me, I make assumptions about what they must be thinking.
Yeah.
And then I judge them on that. And it's hard not to react and respond. And so, I find that going on a lot too, because there is a lot of righteous
Yes.
indignation,
Yes.
some moral, and judging going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I do it too. Like I find myself,
Yep.
I was driving around yesterday and I'm looking at people and I'm driving and I'm thinking, what are you guys doing out? You know,
Yeah. Where
are
do
you
you have
guys,
to go?
are you guys on your way to a family Easter dinner like you're not supposed to be? But everyone's kind of like checking each other out and like,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
what's going on here? And, it's,
So are you
oh
going?
man.
Because I'm still going out. I'm still thankful that they're saying we're allowed to go out, for our once daily exercise or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But and so Ash and I, we go for our run or go for, and not every day, but we try and get out, especially when it's a nice day. I mean, as we're changing into the spring here. But it's funny. I feel like, and we do, like if we see people coming, we've got the room, right? We'll walk across the road or we'll get
Yeah.
on the road because there's hardly any cars these days.
Yeah.
But we've got some trails, right? Which makes it a little bit harder,
Yeah.
right? Because the trails are only a certain width. And we actually went for a run down and we got to the head of a trail. I looked down and I said, Dash, there's way too many freaking people down there for me. But I have said to Ashley, and actually it was a neighbor who did one better. I said, I feel like I want to get a t-shirt that says I'm a healthcare worker. And then they're like, no, we all need t-shirts that say I could have COVID-19, right? Because that's really what we're
you want to
trying
get
to
tackled and beat up. That's a great
Yes,
shirt to
right.
put on. Go out and cough.
And then on the
Great.
back, it says, and you could have it too.
Oh man, don't do it. People are so scared. I think, but I agree with you. Like, so I'm going outside every day too. And what I've learned about Calgary is that I can't go to the trails. I can't go to the
Right. That's what
they are
we're,
too crowded.
Yeah.
So it's stick to your neighborhood and,
Yes.
between the street and the sidewalk, hopefully you've got enough space or, I've stood back and waited. Like I did go, Sam
Yes.
and I, there was a walk, stairway and I saw somebody coming down and we waited. And he
Yep.
came down and I thought he's going to think we're crazy, but he got to the bottom and he said, thank you.
Right. I did that with a bridge.
I said, you're welcome. Like,
yeah,
no problem. We'll wait one at a time up the stairs and, whatever.
Isn't it funny how we think we're crazy? We couldn't get off the path the other day. So I actually said to Ash, because I've listened to the guru of infection control. And I actually said, well, just turn your back to them, right? Because it's about your face. And so I said, so we're standing on the path. We're like turning our back. Hi. Not being rude or anything, but we're just, it's just like, and people are pretty good. They're like, thank you.
But everybody does need to get outside. Fresh air is important.
Yes.
Vitamin D is important.
Yeah.
It's part of your mental and physical health is to get outside. And we do have to learn a new way to share the space.
Yeah.
When you were talking about everyone's doing the best they can, I use this in classrooms all the time when I'm facilitating just to get a good debate going because it always works. And the question always is, do you believe that everyone's doing the best they can? And that always gets people roaring, right? And some people are yes, some people are no, and what I find is that people think that statement is a free pass to not do well, right?
Yes.
And so people are reluctant to admit that people might be doing the best they can because they're not doing as well as they need to be. And so when I add in, what if I say everyone's doing the best they can and everyone needs to try harder? People go, then there's a relief in that for everyone. They say, okay, that I can accept. And I got that. I stole that from Family
Family Connections. I think
Family Connections program in Ontario. Yeah, like
right.
I think I've probably said it before.
Yeah.
So you're in Ontario. The Family Connections program is run by sashbear.org, and they're from the Toronto area as well.
Right.
And so that's where I stole that because I love it. I think it's true, and it can be different on every given day. What my best is today might be different than what my best was yesterday.
Yeah.
And all of that is wrapped up in how well am I looking after myself? If I'm actually looking after myself, and that's a whole other podcast, right? What does that even mean? But if I'm looking after myself well, my best today is quite good.
Yeah.
If I'm not able to look after
Yes.
myself, then my best today might be a little bit short of what it was or what the potential for that is. It doesn't mean it's not my best. It just means that's my best today.
Today, I love that, because I would always go, everyone's doing the best they can, but they should always do better.
Yeah, well, it's
Are
true.
they? Are they really? How do I know they're doing the best they can?
But
And
if you're a Brené Brown fan, you know that one of the things she says, she talks about this in her boundaries
yeah,
clip video. Her husband said it best. She said, I'll never know whether people are doing the best they can or
yeah,
not. But when I believe that they are, when I choose to believe that they are, I win.
yes, yeah, I love
Right? It
that. Yeah,
changes
that's
your
good line.
mindset. It changes the way that you approach them. It
Yeah,
puts you in the right headspace to approach them with optimism and compassion. And that is what we're
yeah,
going for,
yeah,
right? Rather
yeah.
than a cynicism and a story and
Yes,
judgment and assumption and all the
yeah,
other things.
and an I'm right, right. I
Oh
like to, I
yeah.
like to be, I like to be right, which is why I have to really stay out of, well, stay in the arena.
Yes.
Like if I'm judging people on courage, and then I have to be in it too. But it's interesting you said something like it changes depending on what's going on for us. And I have worked every day, and not I mean, some have been really super long days, and I didn't know whether I wanted to keep working over the weekend, but I took two full days off, and didn't look at my emails. And for me, it's all about control, and masked by helping, but it was amazing how I slept better.
Mm-hmm.
I had less anxiety. So I saw a podcast, a webinar when this first kicked off, from a respected leader who said, healthcare leaders need to alter their a leader as a hero mindset, because we're in this for a marathon. This is
Not a
not a
sprint.
sprint, as we've
Exactly.
heard. And I'm not like, I wasn't doing it to get, oh my God, you're working on the weekend. I was just, I have stuff to do. And literally, what else am I going to do, Maureen? Like, there's nothing else I could be doing. I'm moving house maybe, but so I was like, okay. But I forced myself not to check in. And this must sound weird, but
Nope.
I was feeling like I was bubbling up, like, oh, what emails are there? What's come in? Who do I need to help? Blah, blah, blah. But I forced myself to have 2 days away, and feel so much more energized now, and so much more ready and willing, and being able to show up my best self rather than my best self just on that given day. So it is fascinating, isn't it? Because I imagine, and I'm not even in a position of leadership, if you like. I'm supporting an influential leadership, but I don't have a title of leadership. But I know everything I do. I'm leading, little L leading. So I don't even have people who I'm responsible for. And I was feeling that. So I cannot even imagine how people in positional leadership positions are really toggling this. I really need a break,
Yes.
because I know I'm dying right now. However, I also need to be available for my staff and my department. And like, oh, it must be so hard, because I know how hard it was for me.
Oh
And
yeah.
like,
Well, and I looked at, so this is, I've mentioned Trudeau before, and the
oh
daily communications and how impressed I am, right? Like we talked about this morning as well. Even when he doesn't have anything to say or anything new to say, he
yeah,
still comes on and he says the same, the
yeah,
message is, we're in this together. I
yeah,
got your back. We'll
we're
get through
trying.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's excellent.
yeah,
And today he's taking the day off, and I'm thinking, good for you. And it doesn't
yeah,
mean that there's no communication. It means that he's got other people communicating today, different
yeah,
things, so that he can have a day off. And I thought, thank God he's taking a day off, because he's been
yeah,
out there every morning, even while his wife
yes,
was sick, right?
yes,
Communicating, because he was the right person to be delivering the message.
yeah,
But today he's taken some time off. And I think,
yeah,
that's not enough. One day every 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, it's not enough. But I think that you're right. It's hard. It's hard to do sometimes, especially when there's pressure and stuff is going on, and we convince ourselves that if we can just stay on top of it,
Yeah.
everything will be better. But you're never going to get on top of it,
No,
first of all,
no.
especially during a pandemic. And you can show up better, more present
Yes.
to the people who are struggling, especially when you're looked after. It reminds me back when I was frontline nursing and I had postpartum depression. I had my fourth baby and I was depressed. And I remember thinking, I think I needed to take an extended leave.
Right.
The maternity leave was 6 months at that time. I remember thinking, but I should probably not go back to work, because if I go back to work right now and someone comes in and says to me, my life's really hard, I'm really struggling, I'd be like, oh, you think your life's hard? And you know that when you're in that place, you are
Yes.
not ready offering
To
care,
offer some support to
offering
people.
care to other people. And that's where we get to, right? When we
Yeah.
looking
Yeah.
after ourselves, just
Yeah.
the line becomes the threshold becomes very, very thin.
Yeah. And I think it takes a certain amount of vulnerability and courage to sit in that. Like, my girlfriend and I were doing it as a test. Like, we were checking in with each other like twice a day, because we were both like, I'm feeling anxious. So she's like, yeah. And it's a colleague, right? And we're like, this is good. Like, let's just sit in this discomfort, because it was not comfortable.
No.
And we know it's going to be okay. And then when I finally did turn on my computer and looked at the emails, all disaster hadn't happened. And so it's fascinating. I hope that people out there who have to be there and present, not just healthcare, but supermarkets.
Grocery store. Oh
Everyone's,
my gosh,
yeah,
people have to work.
yeah,
People are showing up and they don't.
through this.
Yeah, like it's hard.
Everyone's going through it. Even my husband, they're all working from home.
Mm-hmm.
They're having to make some really challenging decisions at this time, no matter where you work. So hopefully people are able to take that time out of time and have a bit of a break and pass things off to other trusted people or whatever it is, because it is a good leadership strategy. And reflection, creating space, stepping away, they're all good leadership strategies that actually show strength and courage and vulnerability rather than weakness.
Yeah. I have an old story about productivity and self-worth.
Yes.
And that gets in my way. And I find myself, so on a day when I am low energy or sad or anxious or just tired, and needing to just,
yeah,
I get very judgy.
Yeah.
About myself, that I should or shouldn't need this. And I really struggle with it, and it gets in my way. And what I also find is that my self-judgment is directly proportionate to my judgment of others. So when I find myself being very judgy with me, I know that I'm also very judgy with other people, and vice versa. Do you find that?
Oh yeah, I know. And who was it says, yeah, would you talk to a friend like the way you talk to yourself? Yeah, absolutely. I like, the Myers-Briggs, my personality type. I like to be in control. Right? I like to control my life.
Do you think? I think everybody does. I think everybody does. Quite frankly, yeah. We just have a different way of going about it. Yeah.
Control is the J, right? I like to know what's going on, and so I can, yeah. And I forgot the tangent I was going to go on there now.
Judging
so when
ourselves and others.
When I'm not, let me think. Yeah, no.
Sorry.
I'll come back to it.
I forgot the tangent I was going to go on.
yeah, I forgot it. I like to be in control. So I for the first few weeks, I was like, whoa, what do you mean I have to cancel my holiday to Costa Rica? Like, it's going to be done by Easter, right? Like, no. And then now last week I had my May trip canceled. And I think where I go in terms of judgment pants, in terms of letting that's where I was going, in terms of letting things, I'm okay if I'm doing something and I'm in it and I've got a purpose. And last week on Thursday, I reached a goal. I'd produced something. I got it out. I felt good. I got the kudos I needed. I got the personal, internal kudos I needed. I took a break, working from home, turned the TV on to watch and have lunch and watch TV, saw the ministers talking, heard something like, this could be 6 to 12 months. And then I went, what the fuck? And then I started crying. And I'm like, what do you mean? How can we possibly live like this for that long? So
Yeah.
I find that when I'm doing something and I'm in control of my little world, I'm feeling good, and I feel like I've got control over it. And you're right, you need to have control over something. And then whenever, I don't know about you, Maureen, whenever I stop and go, what does November look like?
Oh yeah.
What does the summer look like? It just overwhelms me.
Yes.
And at the beginning I was saying, well, this will be done by Easter, this will be done by May. And now I'm like, people are laughing at me. I'm like, oh, maybe I just won't say anything anymore. And then I'm super sad, and I want you to, I need you to say something. Ashley was reading the news in Australia, and they've said that they're actually talking about not opening their borders until the end of the year. And at the moment, we've got a trip booked for November. So I'm like, you've got to be freaking kidding me.
Yes. It's just one thing after another that's being taken away. You know, and I talk about change and transition in leadership as well. And I think whenever I experience a change and you're going through that unknown period, I have this, it's not even a conscious thought, but there's a little piece of my brain that says, okay, you're going through the unknown change period now.
This is the chaos bit.
This is the chaos, and you have to get okay with the chaos. But then there's a little voice in here that says, it'll all be over in 3 weeks. So I have a little time limit on it, so that everything's going to be, I can handle, I've got it. It's 3 weeks or whatever it is. I have a little, I don't know where that timeline comes from either. I make it up. And then when that turns out to not be true, I have a little meltdown. Right?
You know what? I think that's
over and over and over again. And so I think that's what's happening for people. They think, oh, this is only going to be a day, or it's going to be a week, or it's going to be 3 weeks, or it's only till the end of June, or it's only to the end of May, or it's November or September. We all have a date in our head that we're working towards with this unknown, and we don't know.
No.
And it's hard, and it is, there's a loss that comes every time, right?
Yes. I think that's helped me, because William Bridges in his transitions, right? And how do you help people get through the change? It's allowing them to see themselves in the new normal. Well, we don't know what that freaking new normal is.
No, but what do you have control over, right?
Changing,
So I just had a conversation about this as well. So, what are you can't control. We don't know when this is going to be over. We don't know what the world is going to look like. We don't know what, are we going to be a culture that wears masks? Are we going to, are certain businesses going to fail? Are we going to be, not allowed to touch each other again? Or, like, what's going to happen? I don't know. But I am learning things about myself and what works for me in any situation. And I get to decide what I carry forward and what I let go. As things transition and move into a new normal. And I get to focus on that. Like so this is kind of cool. And I don't know. We've talked about this too. My life is so good. I am minimally impacted by what's going on. And so it's very easy for me to say, I'll be fine. Everybody's going to be just fine. But there are people out there that are, their whole world as they know it is ending. And we're all here to support them. People who are really suffering. My message to the world is, you're not alone. We're all here to help you. We are in this together. That's where we are in this together. What's mine is yours kind of thing. Like it's including time and energy and
well, that's what I think. What is you must have a keen you must have had a number of thoughts about this, and here's me asking you a question, but that's where my mind goes, certainly on how I can support staff, but I'm thinking about how I can support staff now. But really, you must be thinking bigger picture, like what is going to be our mental health and emotional distresses across the world, really, after this. And again, I'm not talking healthcare anymore. I'm just talking about everyone. Like the whole world is, I don't want to sound dramatic, but there's probably not one person in this whole world who's not been impacted in some way. And as you and I have talked about, we're okay. Yeah, I've still got my job. My husband's still got his job for now.
Yeah.
We're making preparations for if we don't, we didn't get that chop one day to the next. So we feel quite lucky where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think, what is the bigger picture impact, and how are we going to support each other through that? Because as mental health is probably one of the most underfunded areas of healthcare.
We don't know how to deal. We as a society, I don't think, have learned how to process our feelings.
Yeah.
And so what happens then is people then don't, and so they use distractions, right? So we use other things to take us out of our feelings, and we never do deal with them. And that's where we get all these little traumas, right? So you talked about big L leadership and little L leadership. I heard you refer to that earlier. I talk about big T trauma and little T trauma, right? So, the big traumas are the things like, I've had a motor vehicle accident. I've been to war. I've been abused. I've, the big things that we all acknowledge are traumatic events.
Yeah.
But the little T traumas are all of the feelings that we experience and don't effectively process, and we just stuff them down and stuff them down and stuff them down. And those things are going to surface and wreak havoc in our relationships with self and others until we deal with them.
Yeah.
And so everyone, to varying degrees, and this is why, we talked this morning, so when, and I'm experiencing it, you're experiencing it, I've got other friends who are experiencing it. Even though we don't have big T traumas, what we are having is feelings that are coming up and out. Sometimes I leak from my eyes, those are feelings that are coming, and that's good. This is a good thing. If you didn't have feelings right now, if you didn't have days where you were feeling low or having a cry or feeling energized or, just processing through those, like, I think, I don't know, one of the big things that I'm learning and hoping that we all learn a little more effectively is how to feel what we're feeling and deal with it and show up for each other in that process. Because I think that's going to be that, like when you talk about worldwide, there's not a person who isn't affected. You're right. Everyone is affected by this, and to varying degrees on different days. And how accepting and how present can we be with ourselves and others through that process?
Yeah. Let's acknowledge our feelings. So I sent a text to my colleague on Thursday afternoon and said, I had a bit of a meltdown this afternoon. And they're like, if you want me to hear you say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say, let it happen, let it come, feel it.
Of course you do. Of course you're having a meltdown.
Like, yes.
There's a lot of energy being thrown around right now. Like you can feel it when you go outside. There's tension and anxiety, and some of it's being generated from within, and some of it we're taken on from other people, and we just Don't I sound so touchy-feely right now?
No, but I think it's awesome. We need to, and we know that from the research and stuff I'm getting.
Yeah, we do.
Like it's okay to feel the way we feel. And if we can get that emotional vocabulary sorted where we can actually name it, then as you say, we can deal with it. And that's part of what I did on the weekend. I didn't think I knew I was tired, but I felt okay. I wasn't sleeping, but I would get up in the morning and I'm like, oh, and I wasn't, falling asleep during the day or anything. So I'm still going, probably on adrenaline or whatever it was. So I just kept going. Had my little meltdown on Thursday afternoon. And it was then when I was acknowledging that, I'm like, okay, I think I actually need a break.
Mm-hmm.
I think I actually need a break. And I haven't taken a social media or a news break yet, but I think that might be my next coping strategy.
Mm-hmm. I was
Because
chatting with a friend about this earlier
yeah,
too.
right.
You know, that this is a perfect time to almost create a bit of a retreat space for myself.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
to because I'm really noticing how much I depend on activities and things, media, especially like this or the news or podcasts or Audible books or Netflix or Prime Video. Like I've got everything you can, like
Yeah.
if it's a thing, I've got it. Right. And so, you know, what would happen if I'm definitely going to do this and I'll do it soon, but just shut everything off
Yeah. Yeah.
and
My girlfriend writes.
just started to notice
Yeah. Right.
what
She just
was going
writes.
on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what would happen there? And
Yeah. Look.
I'm almost nervous of it because I'm almost scared of what's in here. I'm like, oh God, what's what scary monster is going to come out? But I'm so curious about it. I think it would be such an interesting learning, and I mean, only good can come of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I really want to try it, and so I'm going to try it. I'll keep you posted. But
Oh yeah, do. Because
you
that's
know,
where our biggest, I know you want to ask me something, but that's where our biggest transformations come,
oh
right? Like,
yeah. And what
and with,
feelings are down in there that I've not
yeah,
dealt with?
that you
We're going to
don't want
start
to
to.
unpack.
Oh,
Exactly.
oh, a lot.
It's like, because we have unpacked certain layers of our onion,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And then you stop for a bit and you like sit in it, go, yeah, I'm doing good. This is awesome.
yeah. Oh, I'm so involved. I'm so evolved. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's another 35 years in there that I haven't even looked at.
Yes.
You know, that's all. Probably the most traumatic 35 too. Like, oh my God. But anyway, I'll get there. I'm really, we talked about going with your gut. So this has been an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people out there, because we talked about earlier, you got your flu shot this year, Joanne.
Oh, yes.
Congratulations.
Do you want me to tell you about that?
Yeah.
So I did hear your previous podcast with, I think it was Aaron. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm an ST. So sensing, give me all the data. I need it to be tangible, real data.
Yeah.
And then T, that's how I process and make my decision, right?
Yeah.
So sensing and thinking, for people who don't understand that, Myers-Briggs. So it has to be kind of concrete, logical, consequential data. And then I'll make a decision based on that information rather than feelings. So yeah, my gut and that whole, does it mean I have intuition? Of course we do. We have experience. I think if you have experiences, you have a certain level of intuition, at some point. But no, my decision not to get a flu shot was nothing to do with the data. It was just purely a decision based on fear of getting needles.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. They hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it started. Oh God,
I love this. I love this.
Yeah,
let's hear it. I love you.
To share.
I love you whether you're immunized or not, Joanne. Let's have it.
In my, I don't know, 18, 19, 20, whatever, my mum and dad separated. My mum actually moved to Indonesia. She was working on, her then now husband was working on a Australian gold mine at the time. So I was going over with a girlfriend to see her. And, Australians go to Bali all the time. I was like, oh yeah, whatever, we go to Bali. But she's like really in Borneo. Like they were really in the middle of nowhere in Indonesia. So she said, you should get some extra shots of, Hep A and B and whatever else I should get. And I was like, okay. So, I'm what, 20, 21 or whatever. I go, and in Australia, you just kind of go to the doctors, you get your shots. It's all Medicare, right? So then you just go to the desk, you sign a form, and then you leave. I went and got, is it Hep A or B, the one where you get one and then you have to get another one later? I don't know which one that is.
Both are like that.
Both, right?
These two shots have these
clearly.
Yeah.
So I walk in, get the shot. I was fine, having a chat. Stood up, walked out to reception, was signing my Medicare form. My eyes rolled the back of my head. I went white and I fainted.
Yeah.
And ended up in hospital. And this is because they were
You
just
ended up
worried.
in the hospital?
Well, they were worried about, because I was living on my own.
You hit
so
your
they
head
didn't want,
hard.
Yeah, they didn't. And it was on it was on a tiled floor, right? Bang. And I felt fine. It was weird. I don't know if you've ever fainted, but
yeah,
it's kind of like your mind, and I can hear shit, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And then
yeah.
I open my eyes, I'm like, you're on the floor. What are you on the floor?
Okay, everybody look away. Everybody look away.
No, and I was like, what happened? They didn't want me to just be on my own. So I don't know, a couple of hours observation, I think I did. The funny thing is, this is before cell phones really, so you're young, this is going to be like, what the heck did you do before cell phones? So I'm in the hospital, but I'm supposed to meet my 2 girlfriends for dinner. Well, I don't know, maybe I wasn't courageous enough to ask to use the phone at the time, but anyway, totally stood them up. I got checked out and what is it called? Discharged a couple of hours later. I asked the hospital to leave my hospital tag on so that I could walk into dinner.
That's evidence.
Anyway, so long story short, I never went back for a needle after that. So yes, I did go to Indonesia without having all my needles. When I've had to, work in the healthcare system, you have to get tested for, like, I've always had the little TB things, but it's all been fine. I think I've just managed to get away with not having needles, or maybe it's because, I think to become a Canadian citizen, I had to have a tetanus, right? So sure, is it a choice between becoming a Canadian citizen and getting a needle? Okay, I'll have a needle. So when I first started in healthcare last year, I went to my supervisor. I said, do we have to have a needle? And she said, well, you don't have to. We can't make you. However, it is policy. And I was just I talked myself into so much fear. I wanted to, but I couldn't. And then I'm going, 40-something-year-old woman, you're in control of, it just made no rational sense. So this year, I didn't tell anyone of my team. Well, my team knew, right? Everyone else got the flu shot, not me.
Yeah.
But you know what it was? Is actually there was one colleague who didn't get the flu shot last year, and they had different reasons, and I don't know what their reasons were, but mine was just around fear. And anyway, they got sick really bad.
Yeah.
And they were off for 2 weeks, and they were younger than me, fit, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh shit, okay, I really need to think about this. And so I just went into employee health, and I'm always honest. I'm like, this is really freaking me out. And she was awesome. And it was the best needle.
Good.
You know what I did? I gave blood the year before. And that was one, I'm just trying to do things that help me get over that fear. So I gave blood.
I think giving blood is way scarier than getting a needle.
That's what someone said.
It's a bigger needle. It's a bigger needle. Let's start with that.
So it was fine. So it's not about, anti-vaccinations or whether it's only 30% or 50% or whatever. It was just I don't know, what can I call it? A silly fear, an illogical fear of needles that I actually decided I would actually start to work through.
Good for you.
Because it's really not great to be willing to travel to places.
Yeah, you travel a lot. You travel a
right?
lot. Yeah, and what I usually run into is people who are say thank you for telling that story.
Yeah,
It's an awesome story, and I'm glad you're working on it, because I mean, you're going to need needles.
Right.
Throughout your life, and so it's worth working through. I usually run into people though that are sort of anybody who's anti-vaxxer now, 5 years ago, even, it was different than it is now. Because we've started to see some outbreaks and some rise in preventable diseases, the movement has the vaccination movement has got more vocal and better at, I think, putting out, education. But prior to that, we had almost like a complacency with vaccine
Yeah.
preventable diseases, and there was a rise in the anti-vaccination movement, and they were getting more airtime than pro-vaccine and science. And so you had people out there that were saying, I just don't believe in it.
Yeah.
Without doing any research, or I just feel that it's not a good thing,
Yeah.
and almost and then butting up against conspiracy theories, and making decisions based just on their gut. And what I've dug into, because I'm a very intuitive decision
Yes.
maker,
Yeah.
and I do go with my gut, and sometimes I just have a feeling. But what I've learned is that when you're making an important decision, it's good to go with your gut after you've done your research.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Totally
And
agree.
so what I compare that to, I'm just getting a phone call. Just one second.
Oh, yeah.
I just have to text somebody. I have a call at 1:00 that I'm just gonna. One moment, please. Um,
Oh, are we taking too long?
No, it's okay. Just 1 second. I knew that was going to happen. So what was I going to say? Shoot.
What you compare that to?
Oh yeah, is when I look at
nurses,
when I look at nursing, and you look at a novice nurse, right, compared to an expert practitioner, and this continuum. So you've got an expert practitioner who can walk into a room and just take a glance at someone. I was never this nurse, by the way, but I knew nurses like this who could walk into a room, glance at someone, and know immediately that person was going to code, crash, had a pulmonary embolus, whatever. And if you had said to that nurse, how did you know? They'd say, I don't know. I could just, it was my intuition, my gut. I just know.
Yeah.
And really what that is 30 years of assessment data that they are assimilating like that.
Yes.
So when they look at someone, they go click, 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 something wrong. And it is almost a sixth sense at that point, but it comes from years and years and years of data behind it.
Exactly.
It's not just, you can't take, a brand new nurse and put her in that situation and she just is going to just sense it, with her gut. There's more to it than that. And so I like that way of getting my head around what is intuition and going with your gut. And it is okay to tap into, after you've done all your research, what feels right.
Yes. Yep.
That's great.
Exactly.
Legit.
Yeah.
But I do get frustrated with the other people who are,
And it's okay to change your mind. And now that I've had my flu shot, I'm going to jump on who does this vaccine get made available to? Right? Because don't you think now everyone's going to want this? Because COVID is a form of, isn't it a stream of a flu? It is
no,
it's not.
No, COVID
virus
is the strain of the virus, is a COVID.
So COVID is a
common cold, for example, is a COVID. It's not a COVID, sorry, it's a coronavirus.
Right.
It's corona. The COVID-19, I think, is the illness that you develop from the coronavirus.
Right.
I think that's right. I'm not even sure because I'm out of healthcare, everyone.
Yeah.
Don't quote me anymore because I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, that's right. Shouldn't have gone down there. But we're going to have the same challenge. And I heard an expert say the other day, like they have to be they're not going to want to get a vaccine rushed out quickly because that's going to be fodder for the anti-vaxxers, right? If there's negative effects on humans and all that.
Well, there will be. We just need to get it out there, honestly.
Yeah.
They can try it on me.
Yeah.
Test it out on me. I'm fine with that.
Isn't that fascinating? But I like to use head, heart, and gut.
Yeah.
In terms of decision making, Maureen. And I don't know if that's how I kind of often talk about, what's your head, heart, and then your gut saying, right? Because
that's a pretty good way to go at it.
You have to take it all. And I never used I always use my head, right? As a T, I was always just using my head. Wow. Too bad if people are sad about it. Like, I'm not here to make them happy,
Yeah.
But now it's like, then I used to say, okay, head and heart. And then with the neuroscience and all that, they're finding all these down in your gut too. So then I'm like, okay, so how do we balance the head, heart, and gut? And sometimes you have to use the head more than the heart. Sometimes you know, have to use the gut more. And that's the challenge of leadership, isn't
I'm
it?
going to keep adding body parts into this. I think
Yeah.
this is great. I think we could get really raunchy with this one. This is
Our
great.
eyes
I'm going
and
to use my, yeah. No, I love
oh
what
my
you're saying,
God.
actually. And if, in fact, I do need to end this one, but let's
Yes,
do a part 2,
I
please. And let's do
know.
it soon because I have a bajillion questions for you.
It's so much fun. Well, you
Yeah.
just send me your calendar again, and I'll, because this is actually quite cathartic for me
Yeah.
because
Awesome. Thank
it's
you.
nice to be able to check in with like-minded people, right?
Mhm.
And have a bit of a good laugh. So yeah, I'm happy to connect and send people your way because you're amazing. So I hope
Thank you.
whatever you're offering, I'm sure whatever you're offering your clients right now is amazing. And I'd be interested to see how you start pivoting, right?
Yeah.
Going
Well,
forward.
something's going to change.
Yeah,
Things are
yeah,
changing.
yeah,
I've started a podcast and a YouTube
yeah,
channel, so we'll see
yeah,
where we go from there. But
yeah.
thank you very,
All
very
right.
much. And we will
Okay, we'll
talk
talk
soon.
soon. Thanks,
Okay.
Maureen.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.